Back in 1995, the entire city of Chicago was happy Michael Jordan was back.
I'm back. That's all Jordan said on Saturday. That was really all Jordan needed to say as his 17-month retirement came to an end.
But there was one thing nobody was happy about: his teammates' recruitment plans. During the 90s, the NBA was in a much different place than it is now. Bad publicity cost the franchise way more than it does today in the social media era, and no one had a worse public image than the one and only Dennis Rodman. Even Jerry Krause, who was notorious around the league for being hard to deal with, didn't want any of the smoke. Roman was too wild even for him, but that was about to change. When Michael expressed his wish for Dennis to join the Bulls, everyone was like, hell no, including Scottie Pippen. The franchise was worried Rodman's antics would mess up everything and prevent them from winning more championships, but MJ stepped up and took his recruitment as a personal project of his. The only approval MJ needed was one from Phil Jackson. Once acquired, he used all of his power to bring Dennis to the Bulls as he recognized him as a crucial piece for their next title conquest. But what was it that he saw? What was the reason MJ wanted to bring Dennis in so bad? Hello basketball fans, and welcome to Hoop Vision. Today, we're breaking down the life of one of the most memorable personalities in the NBA and how he was able to impress one of the greatest players to ever touch a basketball. Before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Takes only a second, costs nothing, and will give you access to more basketball stories. The beginnings of Dennis Rodman's life were as difficult as they come. His father left when Dennis was a child and never spoke to him until 2012, when Rodman was already 51. There's an estimate his father had 27 or 28 children, but in one of his interviews, Dennis went on to claim he's the oldest of a total of 47 children, making the story even crazier if it's true. With his father being gone, all the burden of raising Dennis and his two sisters fell onto his mother Shirley, who sometimes had to work 4 jobs to put the food on the table. Mind you that this was all happening in the Oak Cliff section of Dallas, which was one of the poorest areas in the entirety of Texas back then. Dennis would go on to grow very attached to his mom and sisters, which shaped his later relationships with women. Despite being the party maniac he has a reputation of being a gentleman with the ladies and speaks highly of his former wives. Growing in an all-female household didn't shape just him relationship-wise, but also in terms of basketball. His sisters, Kim and Deborah, were very talented from a young age and were projected to be great female players. They both went on to become All-Americans at their universities, and Deborah even won 2 national championships playing for the Lady Texters. In the meantime, Dennis ended his senior year of high school being 5'11" tall, got a job as an overnight janitor at the Dallas airport, and logically gave up on basketball. At that point of his life, nothing indicated he'd end up on the walls of basketball's Hall of Fame. However, fate had other plans. Dennis exploded to 6'7" and decided to give basketball another shot. After a not-so-bad year at Cook County College, where he averaged 17 and 13, he went to Oklahoma State University and became a 3 times All-American, leading the league in rebounding 2 years in a row. Averaging 25 points and 15 rebounds on a 63 field goal percentage was more than enough to get noticed and drafted in 1986. The Pistons were looking for someone to help their star point guard, and Dennis was a perfect match for Isaiah and the other bad boys. He was able to reach the headlines as soon as his first playoffs run had ended. The Pistons lost to Bird's Celtics, and Dennis called Larry overrated because he's white. That created an avalanche of media coverage that wouldn't be settled for years, and the rivalry between the C's and the Bad Boys grew even larger. As you probably know, they went on to win 2 NBA championships together, creating history for Detroit, who hadn't won anything before. Dennis left a huge mark in Detroit beside the chips, winning Defensive Player of the Year award, rebounding titles, making All-Star and All-NBA teams. The weight of his accomplishments is best shown in the number 10 retired jersey by the Pistons, and let's be honest, no one would be able to wear that uniform appropriately after him. Unfortunately, aging caught up with the Bad Boys and they suffered a tough loss in a series against the Knicks in 1992 and missed the entire playoffs in 1993. After coach Chuck Daly left the Pistons, Dennis no longer felt he wanted to stay in Detroit and demanded a trade. At that point, he was already established as a tough-to-deal-with player, so not many franchises wanted to take the risk of having him on the roster. San Antonio Spurs were brave enough to trade for him, but soon realized why it wasn't such a good idea. Dennis went on to average 17 rebounds per game, but also went on to fight with almost everyone on the roster except Jack Haley. It was an era of color dyeing his hair, dating Madonna, headbutting Stacey King and John Stockton, and getting into a media fight with the entire San Antonio front office, including Greg Popovich, their GM at the time. If they were winning, they'd probably put up with him, but both years the Spurs suffered playoffs exits that could have went the other way, first from the Jazz and then from the Rockets. The franchise decided enough was enough, and they traded him to the Bulls, just when the great Michael Jordan wanted him there. Now, why did MJ want Dennis so bad when everything suggested the guy was a train wreck? Dennis couldn't shoot, wasn't the best for the locker room atmosphere, and knew how to mess up things easily. But Jordan knew that no matter what your personality is like, you don't average almost 20 rebounds by accident. When he came back, Jordan wanted to go on another title run, but needed another basketball genius in his own right, and he thought he found him in Dennis. If MJ stayed at his previous 3 championships, people would probably put him behind Magic and other players who had more rings. Michael knew that and wanted to prevent it. He also knew that offensively, he could destroy any defense in the NBA, but he couldn't guard 5 guys at the same time. During his time with the Bulls, Dennis would average no more than 5 points per game, but his defense and rebounding were off the charts, averaging around 15 boards, 5 or 6 of them being on the offensive glass. The biggest treat in the East at the time was Shaq, and Jordan wanted the best defensive players he could get his hands on. Their relationship was very unconventional and nothing you see nowadays between players winning championships together. There was no brotherly love, huge gestures, or hanging out, just pure respect and sharing the same desire for winning. The biggest reason why they probably won those championships was that Michael let Dennis be himself outside the court. Everyone was quick to judge Dennis anytime he did one of his stunts, but Michael was never bothered by them unless they got in the way of winning. Dennis knew and respected that, making him somewhat obedient anytime Michael required him to put the team first and stop with the antics for a while. On the contrary, when Rodman was supposed to come to the Bulls, Scottie Pippen was against it and didn't agree until Michael convinced him how he could help them win more titles. Even after his arrival, it would take Scottie a lot of time to accept Dennis as a teammate. There's a famous statement made by Rodman that him, Michael, and Scottie never talked outside of the basketball court. It's crazy that they went on to win 3 NBA titles without speaking to each other about things unrelated to basketball. Today, all that everyone talks about is team chemistry, how players are supposed to know each other, grow together as teammates, and then win chips down the line. Instead, the Bulls assembled a team, came, saw, and conquered. Can you imagine if LeBron, Wade, and Bosh never hung out outside basketball? Or if Curry, Clay, and Green did the same thing as the Bulls? One thing is sure, that team was exceptional, and when you break down the personalities of their main guys, it's more than obvious why. Guys like Jordan, Pippen, and Rodman don't come very often in this sport, and the fact all 3 of them happen to play in the same era and be on the same team at the right time is nothing short of a miracle. That's it for today, Hoop Fam. We hope you've enjoyed this video. Let us know in the comments, what do you think of Dennis Rodman and whether the Bulls could have won those championships without him? Thank you for watching and growing this channel, y'all. Make sure you don't miss out on more NBA stories by hitting that subscribe button. I'll see y'all in the next one.